And when there's a validation over and over and over, it's going to last a long time. And they actually found that sometimes a long distance relationship can be just as fulfilling and last just as long as a close distance relationship. Long distance relationships. We're going to talk about that today. It could be a group of people. As nomads, we can travel in caravans, or we just park next to each other in winter time on BLM land, and we get used to each other. We fall in love with each other as friends, and we just we mesh together. But then in the summer, oh my gosh, we all scatter. We go to our families. We want to see different things in the summer. We want to get away from the heat, and everybody scatters. Well, do you want to continue on with that group? Can become a long distance relationship with your group. You know, you got the love connection too. They say a third of relationships romantic at some point are long distance relationships. People can meet online and they do become successful. There's a certain percentage that do. Or it could be that you're a close distance relationship and something happens. You get another job. You get accepted into a college and you got to move. You go in the military. So all kinds of things that can create a long distance relationship. And you've met somebody and you want to continue on. Well, number one with that is going to be a decision. You have to make a decision if you want to keep the long distance relationship going. And that goes for nomads. If you want to, you have to decide, you have to make those decisions. Do I value these relationships? Do I value my girlfriend, my boyfriend? They're moving or I'm moving. Do I value them enough? Is this a strong enough feeling and love for them to want to continue on? So that is stage number one. And I'm going to talk about 7 stages of a long distance relationship. I'm going to talk about how to keep those relationships going long distance. And there's other different types of long distance relationships. One can be long distance emotionally. One can be long distance, it could be close, but maybe you work different shifts and it just feels like a long distance relationship. So let's get started talking about this. It's going to be interesting, so don't go away. Stay right there. With social media, long distance relationships can be a little bit easier these days. Can you imagine the pioneers? They had to travel all that way. You know, it might be a couple years before they even talk to them again. So, but with social media, we can stay connected. And it really helps with different types of social media also. But they're not easy. But they can be done, the decision. And when you make that decision, then you move on to number 2, which is so sad. You have to part. It's parting. What happens in that stage is right before you do part, you start spending every minute together. And that's so fun. You're just getting ready. You want to get in as much as you can before you guys have to split up. That goes for groups. And that goes for love, romance. You want to just be with that person because you know. And then you part. And you have to say goodbye. Number 3, transition period. You have to transition to being without that person or that group. And they have to transition into a whole new thing, you know, whether it be a job or the military, they got to go back. Now in the nomad world, it's going to be, everybody's going to be transitioning. It's at that stage where, especially if it's love, everybody calls everybody, like every little thing, ooh, guess what I bought today, or guess what I'm going to do today, or whatever, yeah. And the other person is just so happy to hear from them going, oh, that sounds so cool. So that's a transition period. You're transitioning from not being able to be with them as much. Number 4, realization. Yeah, I remember kind of feeling that with the group. It was like, okay, well, yeah, all of a sudden, I'm doing my own thing and they're doing their thing, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I can't just run over there to the rig and talk to them anymore. And yeah, it's kind of sad when you realize that, and you do miss them. And you realize that you're kind of on your own at that point. And you also realize that you could really use them there. There's going to be times that's go, oh, man, I could have used their opinion or whatever. And especially when it's, let's go to the love end of it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you realize that, they're just not there. They're not available all the time. And you realize how much you miss them. And you realize that you have to live your own life again, and you have to do it on your own. Number 5, jealousy. Oh yeah, especially in the love department, but it can even be with groups of people. All of a sudden, you've gone through some stages, and then your partners or your group of people, they start posting photos of them with different people. And in a love situation, they start posting pictures of, they send you pictures of them having fun with their coworkers. Or, yeah, and there might be a couple girls or a couple guys in there. You're like, it really kind of it can break you up. Of all of the different emotions that they research for college students, and there's a lot of long distance relationships for college students, frustration, anxiety, sadness, jealousy. Jealousy was number 1, yeah. And a lot of people reported in all situations, especially in romance situations, that they actually became jealous of their family members. It's like, well, they get to spend time with him or her, and I don't get to spend time with her, but her family does. And so it's not uncommon for anybody who gets to spend time with your loved one, whether they be a friend or a loved one or a romance, yeah. Jealousy, ooh, the green monster. Number 6, doubt. Yeah, you can begin doubting whether this is even going to make it or not, if this is something that you even value anymore. And you start looking at things in a different way. And they find that the longer you're apart, the more you're going to question it. If there was any doubt before you parted, then it doesn't stand much of a chance, because that doubt is going to be very big in stage 6. Number 7, couples, it's called validation. And couples or groups of people or friends who can validate that they can keep going in this long distance relationship for a time, they will make it. And when there's a validation over and over and over, it's going to last a long time. And they actually found that sometimes a long distance relationship can be just as fulfilling and last just as long as a close distance relationship. But when it's validated at stage 7 and it's validated, there are things that have had to have happened. And one has to be a good communication. They actively listen to each other and they communicate well, as long as each one felt supported by each other. There was disclosure and open, honest communication, and they built a trust with each other. And I actually believe this also applies to nomad groups and caravans, people that you've met and you enjoy camping with and boondocking with and traveling with. I also think that this applies to friendships too. I really do. I also did some research on this, and when one of the people in the group in a long distance relationship is depressed or has some mental issues or isn't as confident in themselves, the success rate is not good. And I actually found this to be the case for myself. Had a really good friend, but and I really enjoyed it. It was the same gender friendship as a nomad, but it just seemed like there was a lot of doubt and depression on that person's end, and she misinterpreted me a lot, or she thought I was mad at her a lot and stuff. So, and eventually, you know what? Eventually, it just fell off, and I know it doesn't last. It was hard to communicate, and then I found it was hard to be honest. So, I did find that interesting when I read that if a person is depressed or having a hard time in life or going through some issues, it probably isn't going to work. So even with those 7 stages, jealousy or doubt, or as long as it can get to the validation stage, you're good to go. A lot of people are in long distance relationships. Now, whether it's in a love relationship, whether you met online, there are relationships that last, that they met online. And then you've got your nomad group. My nomad group, there's 5 of us. We text almost every day, and we send pictures and, well, good morning, everybody, or how this is what's going on in my end. It's raining, or yeah, we got monsoon going on over here, and I sent them pictures of my little camp out here in Reno, and I can't wait to get back together. I will mention, before I start talking about other areas that need to happen to make it happen, to get to the validation stage, in all the research I did, there was one word that came up all the time. What is the end plan? There has to be an end plan. You can't just, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Yeah, that's when the doubt really creeps in. So we'll begin talking about those areas. And the end game, the end plan is very integral. Once people commit to a long distance relationship, it can work. You have to make that decision, and you have to commit to it. If the people involved find themselves choosing each other again and again and again and again, there's that validation over and over and over again, it will probably be a lifetime relationship, and it can happen long distance. Well, let's get on with the end game. There has to be an end game to it, and this is where the communication comes in. There has to be good communication between the group or the 2 people. And now I'm going to actually include friendship in that too. Like, what is the end game? I know with my friend, I tried to get an end game out of her often. I'm like, she worked, and I said, well, she was retired age. I said, well, how long are you going to work? Are you going to, and I never really could get an answer out of her on that. Maybe that's one of the reasons too. There has to be an end game to it. Yeah. You can't just have a really close friendship, because I thought we were BFFs. You can't really have a close relationship with somebody if you see them face to face just, like twice a year for a few days or a couple days every, yeah. That makes it kind of hard. Now, also research said that the farther away somebody is, especially for romance, the farther away that somebody is from you, the more comfortable it is. Because if you're only 200, 300, 400 miles away, one of you are going to say, well, why don't you come see me? It's not that hard. So, and if you don't go face to face with a person who's kind of close, those are the ones that they don't make it. The doubt kicks in and never makes it to stage 7. So how do we make it work? Well, communication. Yes. Yeah, we have to talk about things. We have to come up with things. And we have to come up with plans. We have to let each other know what we need. How often do we need to connect up with each other? What are we willing to do? We can lay everything on the table, but there might be stipulations from the other person that I might not be willing to do, and vice versa. If there are those stipulations, and I'm talking about in romance, and they can't be met, both of you aren't on the same page, you haven't had a meeting of the minds, research says it is probably best just to stay friends until maybe you can come face to face. I'm going to guess that probably would never, if they can't be met in those terms, it probably wouldn't have lasted anyways, it seems to me. But create structure. Structure in the communication, structure in times. Also structure in when you can get together face to face. I mean, there is such a thing as an airplane. We can hop on it and go see that person, yeah. But yeah, a structure. And then also structure in who's going to go when. You know, at one time, one person can go see the other one, and another time the other one goes. And so it can be a shared responsibility. But with the structure, also be spontaneous. Surprise each other at times, yeah. Especially in a romantic, situation. Now, the things that I'm talking about right now probably pertain most to romance or just one other person, maybe a really close friend. In a group, I'm not so sure if we're going to fly and see each other. I'm not so sure if we're going to have any structure. But we do have structure in that we have our group, we've created it, and we can text whenever we want to. So there's our structure. We don't have to answer somebody right away. I've had people that want to, I actually have had people who want to be friends with me online, which would be a long distance relationship. And we'll be talking, but I'll get busy and I have to do something, and I'll come back to the text and they'll almost be yelling at me, "Are you there? Are you there, Lee?" And it's like, wait a minute. No, this ain't gonna work. I'll get to you when I can get to you, So you can't expect so much out of each other when it's just a friendship relationship. Yeah. And when it comes to spontaneity, you can surprise each other, and that's going to take some work to learn what somebody would like. I'm not going to talk about this right now. It wouldn't be bad to talk about it later, but my daughter always talks about this. This is my love language, and this is my husband's love language. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what my love language is. I speak many languages, as you believe, yeah. I like all kinds of things, yeah. But to learn your love language, maybe we should all look it up. What is my love language? Some people it's touch. Some people it's talking. Some people it's just going and doing something together. So, I don't know. Love language, I'm going to look that up. Oh, here comes Mr. Red Corvette. Yeah, that's funny. He comes around, you won't be able to see him. This guy with his top down, he just drives around a few times in his red Corvette. It's kind of interesting. I wonder why he does that. I always think he's probably just looking for younger. Oh, there he goes, yeah. Yeah. Max remembers the red Corvette. Well, Max, he's still here. Yeah. Okay, here we go with the plan. We need a plan. Yeah, there's got to be a plan. And the sun is up there. Move around. Yeah, well, let me swing. Woo! This is my swing. Okay, so the plan. You got to plan out the end time, the end plan. That is integral to the long distance relationship. If it's military, well, maybe the end plan is you're going to get married and you're going to travel with the person in the military. Could be guy or gal these days, yeah. Doesn't always have to be the gal has to go follow the guy. Could be either way. What about college? The college students? What about our group? Well, we all know the end game is going to be in courtside again. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Land and sea, air and fire, wind cannot keep us apart. Yeah. Okay, so and a plan, and it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be agreed upon. We need to set boundaries. We need to define what the boundaries are in a long distance relationship. You know, things can get a little cloudy, you know, especially for younger folks. Yeah, they can get a little cloudy. And there could be inappropriate behavior. Could be drinking involved. There could be other girls, other guys. Oh, yeah. And so you want to know what appropriate behavior is. You need to discuss it, and you need to define those boundaries of what's expected of each other. And really, it's really, I think we all, well, as adults, we should know what appropriate behavior is. But when you start mixing alcohol, maybe marijuana, things like that, yeah, things can get clouded. So if you define them right off the bat, and you have some accountability, I think that research shows that that's best. And why is that best? Well, because you could get used to that kind of a lifestyle. And then when you do come together, it might be kind of, you might still want to like continue on with inappropriate behavior because it became a habit. You know, we talk a lot, or I talk a lot about the habits. You know, it only takes like 14 days for something to become a habit. Yeah. So you got to be careful with that. So when you're apart, practice the relationship as if you're already together. Just practice it as a face-to-face relationship. And don't cross the line. Don't cross the line. Yes. So with effort and commitment and having a plan, a long-distance relationship can work, and in many cases as well as a close-distance relationship. I want to talk about another type of long-distance relationship. It can be a close distance, but it's still a long distance. What about two people that are working different shifts? That can seem like a long-distance relationship where you're not really seeing each other very often. It can be hard to have a relationship like that. So a lot of these things still apply. You know, having an end game, an end plan. Making a decision, making that commitment that it's going to work, and making a plan and transitioning into kind of being on your own, like in the evening, and you know that your partner is working at night. So there are a lot of different long distance relationships, and a third of relationships, and I'm going to include friendships, are like that. Here's an interesting fact. Research suggests that long-distance relationships can actually be more meaningful than close-distance ones. Now, why is that? Well, the conversation is a little bit more meaningful for long distance. They try a little bit harder. The conversation is a little bit deeper. They're a little bit more committed. A close distance relationship doesn't always mean that it's going to be a good one. It may be a whole home one, yeah, to where they're not really talking anymore. They're just talking incessantly, and it gets a little boring sometimes. So that was interesting. If you can validate a long distance relationship over and over, they can be unstoppable. That goes for friendships, groups, and especially for romantic partners. Distance does have the ability to break bonds, though. Being distant from somebody, there can be those red flags, and you have to look out for those. Try to do that in the beginning. Look for red flags. Don't overthink it. But there can be those red flags to where they don't want to communicate with you. They're not willing to set boundaries or plans and make that end game. If they just don't seem like they're interested in that, those are those red flags. I do know that there could be those type of relationships where somebody really does want forever a long distance relationship. Maybe that's what they want. They just want somebody to talk to every once in a while and be romantic with them. They want somebody to tell them they love them or that they're gorgeous or pretty or whatever. Yeah, that wouldn't be my cup of tea, but there's got to be those people out there that just like that. They're more Maybe they're agoraphobic and they don't want to get out, but they want to have a relationship with somebody. If they can find somebody that wants the same thing, wow, that's a good matchup, isn't it? But don't overthink it, which comes to another point. Especially in a romantic situation, you can misinterpret a lot of text. I've seen it happen personally in my own life, and it can be devastating. You can be like, oh, how dare they say that? And communication, words are only 5% of communication. There's like hundreds of muscles in our face that, and each little different movement means something different. So, and then we've got the tone of our voice. We've got body language that goes along with it. Yeah, words. Well, text is words, and words. If words is only 5%, oy vey shmir, it can get lost in the translation. So here's some advice. If you are only texting with your loved one and you see something that just like, oh my God, how could they say that? I'm not like, well, alrighty then, I am done. I'm done. That's it for me. Because, you know, we're talking long distance relationships. What can happen? Sadness, anxiety, frustration, and number one, jealousy, which creates doubt. There's doubt. So there can be a lot of doubt in a long distance relationship. We've established that. And if it doesn't make that stage, it will not make it to validation. So let's clarify what somebody said before we go off the deep end and do something rash. So if they're not reachable by phone right away, leave a message. Or text them and say, I need to clarify something with you ASAP. Call me. Yeah. Now, and then you can talk it over, because they may not have, misinterpretation. She's a nasty one, isn't she? She can misread so much. And then everything gets misaligned. Yes. Yeah. So don't let her take over a relationship that really could be a good one. Now, what about FaceTime or Zoom? Yeah, I don't suggest Zoom. Here's you know why? I'm going to tell you why. It can freeze on you. Yeah. I know people freeze on me, and I don't want to freeze on somebody else's computer. Who knows what your face is doing at that point, right? So you don't want to have freezing going on. But what about Signal? Use the app Signal. Now, I will mention WhatsApp. Get rid of it. There are so many they keep changing the privacy on it. They keep changing it. Everybody's running from that in droves. Yeah, they can actually hack. It's one of the easiest apps to hack. So get rid of it and go to Signal. So yeah, and you can do FaceTime on there. If two people have an iPhone, you can do FaceTime. Do FaceTime. But if you don't want to do FaceTime, you're just shy about that. You'd rather be face to face. If you want to look at somebody, talk on the phone and set up your times. Well, I hope you found this interesting, everybody. Love you guys. Please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching it all the way through. Don't forget the book. The links are everywhere. You know where they are. And it does help support me if you buy it, even if you might not. But a lot of people are saying they'll love to read it. Don't forget my Amazon links. Boy, that really helps me. It really does. It just kind of trickles in. And it's there's a lot of bugs in Reno. They fall from the trees, yeah. And then what else? A Facebook group, yeah. Love you guys. Teespring, the merchandise, I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm going to get it figured out, and I'll let you know when it's all figured out. I did design another shirt today. I've got a couple shirts coming. I'm going to wear them. And then my stickers and my magnets, that's a go. They turned out beautiful. I just have to set it up on my website. So Love you guys. You guys have a good day.